All right, good afternoon. Hopping on here to give you the 4 p.m. update on our tropical depressions. If you missed the Facebook Live earlier, we'll have some more information for you here as we continue to track these two tropical systems out in the Caribbean and the Gulf, not the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic. So here's the latest on what we've got going on. We've got 14 in the Caribbean, we've got 13 in the Atlantic, and you can see there pretty big differences between the two. And then you've got this wave coming out of Africa. Of course, way out there, we really don't have much time to talk about it for now. We'll be really focusing on these because we've got a long time to track that one. But you can see there the latest on tropical depression 14. It is still a depression. They did not upgrade this to a tropical storm with the latest update. And they actually have hurricane hunters in there right now, finding that the winds are pretty constant, around 35 miles per hour or so. And it hasn't organized much over the past, since this morning at 10 a.m. So still a lot of showers and thunderstorms, but not the most organized system. It does have kind of that closed off center of circulation, but it's not a well-defined system. The latest track, not a whole lot of changes here either. They have it coming a little bit closer to the coast of Honduras and Nicaragua as we go into tomorrow, back up into the Caribbean, strengthening as it gets closer to the Yucatan. It'll be interesting to see how strong it gets at this point, because not going to be a lot of wind shear, not going to be a lot of dry air. And then it gets over the Yucatan as we go into Sunday, probably weakening some as it gets over land, and then back out over the Gulf of Mexico as we go into Sunday night. And then you can see there by Monday night, going into Tuesday night, approaching the northern Gulf Coast. Really, the only change so far with the track has been a slight nudge to the east, but that's to be expected. You're going to be looking at these tracks, expect it to jump around a little bit. It's not a well-defined system. There's still a lot of uncertainty, so there's still going to be quite a bit of movement in this track itself. But notice by Tuesday, somewhere along the northern Gulf Coast, from Texas to Louisiana, maybe even to Mississippi and parts of the Florida Panhandle, could start to feel some effects from the system. It depends on where the exact track goes. So still watching this very closely for all of Texas coast, all the Louisiana coast, that includes southeast Louisiana and South Mississippi as well. Could start to feel the impacts from this system as early as Monday, though. Of course, you'll start to see some of those, all of that moisture traveling in, the breezy conditions, things like that. So still a lot of uncertainty with the Tropical Depression 14, but it looks like that'll be the main one we're focusing on as we go into Monday and Tuesday. Of course, we're also watching Tropical Depression 13. It's out in the Atlantic, not as organized, pretty broad, kind of messy looking system. It has not strengthened at all over the past couple of days. And it's probably not going to do much, at least in the near future. Now, what'll be interesting to see is how much it organizes as it moves west northwest. Notice they do have it becoming a tropical storm, maybe Laura or Marco, depends on if 14 or 13 develops first. But tracking kind of north of the Greater Antilles, up through the Turks and Caicos, through the Bahamas, and then towards Florida as we go into Monday. So they do have this strengthening into a Category 1 storm by Monday, approaching somewhere along the southern tip of Florida. It could stay, south of Florida. It could kind of go on the northern side. It's a big question in this part of the forecast, depending on the intensity. So I will say, if we have a more intense storm, maybe a stronger hurricane, it'll probably take more of this northerly path coming up towards Florida. Now, if it's weaker, like most tropical systems, it'll try to get further west if it's weaker. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see how it interacts, how it develops as we go into the weekend. But notice by Monday going into Tuesday into the Gulf of Mexico, and then it starts to make that kind of northerly turn. But notice, this may take, they have it making a turn towards the Florida Panhandle right now. But, if this thing gets further west, you'll see the cone shift. If it gets further east, vice versa. So still need to watch this across a big chunk of the northern Gulf Coast, even here in New Orleans, South Mississippi, because this is a long ways out and there is still a lot of uncertainty with this part of the forecast. So we certainly will be watching this one closely. And of course, Tropical Depression 14. Also something that'll be interesting to see how they interact with each other. Could we have two tropical systems in the tropical storms or named systems in the Gulf of Mexico at the same time? It is possible. The last time that happened, where we had two at least tropical storms or greater in the Gulf of Mexico, was actually in 1959. So it is rare that that happens, but it has happened. The last time we had two named systems, in 2002, we had a tropical depression and a tropical storm at the same time. So it is rare, but it does happen, of course, with our busier seasons. Now, one thing that looks like a pretty good guarantee is at least a surge of moisture coming into the area. and that means greater rain chances. So I'll show you what our models are thinking on that. You can clearly see here's Tropical Depression 14, here's Tropical Depression 13, and you can see the moisture in the blues. That's that deep tropical moisture. We put this in motion, and as we go into Saturday and Sunday, notice still pretty dry over New Orleans and much of the northern Gulf Coast. So Friday and Saturday looking pretty dry, maybe just a few pop-up showers and storms. But as we go into Sunday, you start to get more of that deep tropical moisture moving in, associated with, at this point, Tropical Depression 14, maybe Laura or Marco. Here's Tropical Depression 13 approaching the Florida Straits up towards the Bahamas. And then as we go into the beginning of the week, so we're talking by Monday, notice you're starting to see a lot of that deep tropical moisture on the northern Gulf Coast. So that means rainfall will start to increase along the coast on Monday. A lot of moisture over Florida on Monday with that other system. And then as we go into Tuesday, that's when you have kind of just a broad area of moisture between the two systems, whether it be from this one or this one. That is going to bring higher rain chances to much of the northern Gulf Coast. So with two systems in the Gulf, really from Texas to Florida, has a chance to see some impacts from either one of these systems. So it's kind of one of those things where it doesn't matter whether you live in Brownsville or down along Key West. You need to watch both of these, or at least you need to be watching the tropics pretty closely. So quite an active period as we go into next week. It does look like the main time frame for impacts here on the northern Gulf Coast will be, for the most significant impacts, depending on where that is, will be on Tuesday for both systems, possibly Monday for parts of Florida for the Atlantic system. So um, interesting to say the least. Two systems in the Gulf of Mexico, not something we deal with often, but it looks like that could certainly happen as we go into this weekend and the beginning part of next week. So make sure you're staying weather aware. There are going to be changes in the forecast without a doubt. Don't look at this now and think that's what's going to happen for sure, because with the uncertainty, with the models, what they're doing, there's just going to be changes in the forecast. Some models really don't develop these into anything. Some models develop them into hurricanes. So we need to follow along very closely. And of course, it's late August. You know how things go this time of year, late August, early September. It is no surprise that the tropics are getting active. So that is the latest on Tropical Depression 14, Tropical Depression 13. We'll likely have Laura and Marco at some point. And by the way, those would break records more than likely for the earliest L and M storm. Surprise, surprise. It's kind of been the trend this year. But that is the latest as of now, and make sure you're staying up to date with the forecast. Chris will have the latest on Channel 4 at 5 o'clock and 6 p.m. And of course, we'll continue to follow this very, very closely.